fellow Minecrafters, Gearsaw Studios here. Today I'm going to show you how to build an underwater base, because sometimes just building underwater is a unique experience from land building. However, before I begin, remember, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. So with that, onto the tutorial. As with any build, remember, place down a palette. I'm going to do one with a lot of blues, and I'm going to use dark oak and white concrete, with the lighting being sea lanterns because it matches the sea. Now that I have a palette, it's time to begin building. Although it's time to begin building, remember, choose a flat area because flat areas are easier to work with. Also, make sure you have the proper aquatic building equipment, as in bring helmets with aqua affinity, respiration, and possibly bring water breathing potions. Also, make sure to grab gravel so that we can terraform the area so it looks natural. Now that a good area has been selected, it's time to begin the beginning of the build. What you'll want to do is start off with some sort of shape. I'm going to go with a circle, so what I'm going to do, place 3 blocks here, another 3 blocks, 2 blocks, 1 block, and I'm just going to create a circle from that. Now with this circle laid out, it's time to dig into the water. It's usually easier to just have a glass surface to an underwater base rather than building it actually in the water, because usually that requires more draining and that's more work and that just causes a ton of issues. So this is still an underwater base, it's just not going to be out in the open, but rather built into the terrain. Sometimes you'll encounter caves, but that's usually not an issue, just patch them in or incorporate them into your build. Now with this area excavated, put on a glass roof. The glass roof will allow you to see into the water and make it more of an underwater base rather than an underground base. Along with that, you can see the fish above and whatever's going on the surface. Because we dug it into the ground rather than putting it out in the open, placing a glass ceiling will drain all the water once complete, which will negate the need for sponges, which can be very hard to get in survival mode, considering the danger of ocean monuments. So just fill in this area with glass. The next part of building this is an entrance. You'll need a way to get into your base, which means we'll have to build an airlock. The airlock can be very simple, or it can be very complicated. It's up to you, but I'm going to go for a more simple design. What I'm going to do is extend the circle this way, excavate down, so that way it matches the level. And now that it matches the Y level on the inside, make a small 4. I'm going to use dark prismarine for this because it matches the water. Make the walls, but make sure they're not all dark prismarine. And the walls can be pretty simple. Also, adding sea lanterns is a neat detail that I'm going to do. And the gravel surface can be annoying, but just fill in the walls. Now with some walls installed and a lowering of this wall, it's time to add something to keep the water out. What I'm going to use is just some signs. You could make a complicated piston door, but there simply is not enough room in here, and that is a little bit complicated. So just add some signs, and now you can get in and out of your base. You could try to make something more fashionable, which I might try to do later on. Okay, so I changed the design a little. Instead of using signs, you can also use a sunken floor. Make sure to block off all the water going in here before changing it if you want to do that. Now it's time to decorate the walls near the airlock. The airlock has a bit of a different palette to the rest of the build, so I just used dark prismarine, which might not mesh well with the wall design I'm going for, but changes can be made. Now with the airlock finished, it's time to move on to the walls. The walls can be whatever you want, but I'm going to use white concrete, dark prismarine, sea lanterns, and stripped warped stems. After I finish this, we can move on to the next part of the tutorial. Also, there's many things you can do, so get creative with your wall designs. With the walls and potential doorways complete, it's time to move on to the floor, which I'm just going to use polished deep slate bricks, which actually aren't called polished deep slate bricks, just deep slate bricks, and that's going to be the entire floor. So, there's actually more to the floor, which included some lighting and cyan terracotta. Also, somehow I realized I called these things polished deep slate bricks. In fact, they are deep slate tiles with cracked deep slate tiles within. But with that, the floor is done, which means it's time to move on to the other rooms, which you should add doors to. The best doors for this situation, in my opinion, is dark oak doors, which I can't seem to get placed right because this is a more futuristic build, and dark oak doors just work the best for that. Now it's time to work on the actual functional part of the base, which this part is going to be the storage room. First, you'll want to find where the surface is, which is right there, and start making another shape. I'm going to make another circle because I believe this base should look circular. Now, just start punching out the holes like you did for the first shape. Now, you'll want to conjoin this shape with the main shape because that will just make it look better, and it's time to put in the glass for this part. Now, do the walls, which should be rather similar because the doorway is also the doorway to the other side. With the walls in, there's going to be a key change. Rather than having a normal floor, it's going to have a floor of barrels because that will save a ton of space. Since this is already a rather small room, space efficiency is definitely a big thing in a base like this. Now that the barrels are in, place down chests. And since the ceiling is glass, you can stack them up all the way. You can't connect these chests except here, but chest connections look bad since this is only a 3x3 area, circular, which means that would just look strange. But if you built a bigger room, you can have double chests. You can add it along this wall, but I'm not going to do that, so it looks better. Now, a simple storage room has been completed, but I'm not going to add any item frames because this is creative mode. Now that the left side of the base is done, repeat what you did on the left on the right because symmetrical base looks great. Since the other side was a storage room, this side is going to be a furnace room. And also because the other side was a storage room and had barrels for floors for more efficiency, this side doesn't need as many furnaces as that side needs chests, which means a normal floor can be put in. I'm going to use white concrete, but I might change this to deep slate tiles later. Now, line each wall with each different kind of furnace. 6 will do good. This side can be smoker, this side can be blast, and this side can be normal. Now, this room is complete. Make sure not to cover up the lighting sources for your room, because you'll get a very dark and probably mob-infested room if you do that. Now that the other two sides of the base have been done and that there's an airlock, the base is coming together as a turtle, which means the final room will be a little bit bigger and represent legs of this turtle, because, fun fact, turtles have legs. The final room will be the bedroom, which means it will have a little bit of a different style from the other two utility rooms. It will involve being more homely and just being bigger and having more unique stuff to it. So, make your bedroom bigger than the other rooms. Actually, don't make this room bigger if you don't have enough room, because I tried making this room bigger, but it's not worth forcing something if you don't have enough room for it. Which means the room will be smaller in this tutorial, but you can make it bigger in your own version of this build. Because this room is supposed to be the legs, there's going to be a bit of a difference while adding the glass. What you'll want to do is add a line through the middle and place down something in the middle. I'm going to do sea lantern to add more lighting, and then fill in the glass for the other pieces. This represents legs because now this looks like turtle legs, although they are a little small due to space constraints. Because this room is going to be a bedroom and also the most homely of the rooms, it means you should probably add wood, because you might still be wet when you walk out of the airlock, but when you're in here, you probably will have dried off, which means the wood won't rot due to the moisture, and it also means you should probably add wood, just for the added homeliness. Now, because it's a bedroom, add a bed. You can add a lot of things to the bed, including potted plants, but I'm not going to do too much because I'm going to add an aquarium into the wall. Although this is underwater, it's still worth it to add a potted plant because that just increases how good a build is by about 100%. Now that there's a little azalea potted, it's time to work on this small aquarium. In order to do an aquarium, punch a hole in the wall and make it decently thick. Water may flood the room, but you can quickly patch that up using some terraforming skills. Just go to the surface, add a roof here. I'm going to use white concrete and patch it up with some gravel. Make sure to edit the area around it, and that is fixed, which means you can go back inside and continue working on the aquarium. The walls should be whatever you want. You can add blue, you can do whatever. I might change this to blue. But the ground should be something sandy or gravelly. Also, don't forget sandstone slabs are still something you can add to be a bit of, terrain for the fish. What you'll want to do then is you'll want to fill it up with water and add some plants, such as some coral. Coral quickly dies out of water though, which means you should probably place down the water and add something to prevent it from going in. Add some coral, which can be a little hard to do. Don't forget coral fans also exist and can be attached to walls. And you can add them to walls, but they'll die quickly out of water. Now it's time to add the fish. I prefer tropical fish due to their colors compared to other fish. Add the rest of the water. And if a fish falls out, you can pick it up with another bucket. However, it might be a little difficult to keep them in, considering there's so many in here. Then just use water buckets to save the ones that fell out by accident. Now that's done, the aquarium has been finished. Now, with the bedroom finished, the base is complete. However, before you truly call it home, look around and make sure that there are no inconsistencies. You may have noticed that the pillars in here were different from the storage room, but I have fixed that. Also, this central area you can add many things to that were included in other rooms, such as the stone cutter, the smithing table, and many other things, which is the reason why this open area is very useful. Now, there's one other thing you should do, which is clearing your effects if you are in creative mode, because clearing your effects will allow you to see if your rooms need more lighting. I believe this place is pretty well lit, with all the sea lanterns scattered about, which means this build is done. Because this space is done, that means it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. And with that, take care, don't sleep with the fishes. Gearsaw